Hello students, you are once again welcome to the second session of Unit 2. In this session, we shall be talking about factors influencing the selection of subject matter. Let's look at the objectives. By the end of the section, you should be able to identify and explain the factors that affect the selection of subject matter in mathematics. In our previous session, we looked at subject matter in mathematics, the definition of subject matter, and then we looked at the types of subject matter, concepts, generalizations, and skills. In selecting subject matter, curriculum developers and teachers are affected by certain constraints, and these constraints, speaking generally, we have three: regulations, variety in students' ability, interest, and so on. We can talk of many constraints that curriculum developers and teachers in general are affected by when selecting subject matter. In this session, we shall consider 6 factors that influence the selection of subject matter in mathematics, and they include the following: requirements, objectives, utility, interest, difficulty, and authoritative judgment. Let's take them one by one and look at what we mean. When we talk of requirements, what do we mean? It refers to the government or a regulatory body policies on what students have to do. So we can talk of the intended curriculum here, what the policy makers expected students to do. That is what we mean by requirements. So this affects the selection of subject matter. So this includes a list of topics to be covered before graduation. Mathematics departments in some schools often have courses of study that teachers are expected to follow. So at our level, JHS, primary and SHS, we have the syllabus to guide us, and that is the requirement that we are talking about here. Each teacher then has to determine the specific items of subject matter of each topic. So the syllabus will give you the topics, and you as a teacher have to select the items of the subject matter that you are to teach. At the pre-tertiary level, mathematics is a compulsory subject, as we all know. Hence, as teachers, we must consider the ability levels of students. So at each level, we must look at the subject matter that is appropriate for the level that we are handling. The next factor is objectives. What do we mean by objectives here? Objectives are stated in the syllabus, in the curriculum, and we must be guided when selecting our subject matter. So specific or definite objectives are more helpful in selecting subject matter. We can have general objectives and specific that relates directly to the sub-topic and the topic that we are looking at. So specific ones are more helpful than the general ones. Objectives help to justify subject matter at a specific level. So if you are teaching JHS 1, what are the objectives stated in the syllabus? So it will guide you to select the appropriate subject matter for that level. Hence, objectives are to be stated before selecting the content or subject matter, because the objectives will guide us to know the kind of subject matter to select. So this is a factor that influences the selection of subject matter. Another one, as we said, is utility. And utility here, we mean the usefulness of the subject matter, how useful it is. It also influences our selection of that subject matter. Curriculum developers and or teachers tend to select subject matter that they consider useful, either in So we have three ways: preparing future citizens for the purpose of examination or in the learning of other subjects. that is the prerequisite knowledge. So we can select subject matter based on these three. So when students ask you, what are we going to use this for, you can find any of the three to tell them, either for preparing them as citizens, either for preparing them as for the purpose of examination, or in the learning of other subjects matter in that regard. Subject matter may be useful at the very time it is being learned, or it may be useful at some future time. So it is not always that what we are teaching now will be applicable or useful at that particular time, but it may be useful in future. For example, if you are students who are going to pursue mathematics at the university, what you are teaching them, relative math topics and core math topics, will be useful in that future. So it's not always that what we teach will be useful immediately. So examples, as we said, most topics in the SHS syllabus are useful in the future, and we can look at them in that respect. So when students ask you what you are teaching us, what are we going to use for, you must find ways and means to explain to them, for them to develop the interest in learning them. Utility may pertain to academic or non-academic situations. So what do we mean by this? Academic, people will be furthering their education, they will need it. In the world of work, those who will terminate their education at the SHS level, in the world of work, they may need those, subject matter. Thus, in selecting the subject matter of mathematics, we have to consider the mathematics for everyday life, application in other subject areas or for modeling situations, application in commerce, trade, industry, and so on, as a tool in other scientific and technological fields. The next factor is interest. How does interest influence our selection of subject matter? Students' interest in mathematics is a key determinant of success in their mathematics achievement. So a student who has interests, and research has shown, countless times that students' interest is a key determinant in his or her achievement. A student is interested in mathematics because he or she has had success in it. Its utility has been perceived because the teacher is enthusiastic and competent. So these things can determine whether a student will have interest in mathematics. If the student sees that what I'm going to learn will be helpful either now or in future, the students will have interest. Or the student has done something in mathematics, has been successful at it, it will create or promote or develop interest in that respect. And because the teacher has a way, kind of a magician in a way to, get the interest of the student. And if you're a competent teacher and a very enthusiastic teacher, you can develop interest of students in mathematics. Mathematics teachers will have to work harder to develop and sustain students' interest because it's a key component in students' achievement in mathematics. And we can achieve this by using varied teaching methods. Thus, an example is integration of technology. Research has shown that when you integrate technology into your teaching, it improves student performance and it develops students' interest in the subject. You can read on Mensa and Nambier 2021. There's a research on that particular strategy of teaching. The next one is difficulty. Subject matter which are too difficult for students frustrate them, and is true because you have all been students at the SHS level before, and you know that you have some difficult topics that when the teacher comes to the class, you frown your face and it frustrates you, and the students you are going to teach are just like that. So how do you select them? And they may not be able to understand or do what is expected of them, and may reduce their interest and motivation. And when their interest and motivation are reduced, you know what will happen. It leads to something else. Students find subject matter difficult when it is taught by a teacher who does not explain subject matter clearly or reviews or assign enough exercises. So if you are that kind of teacher, then students will find your subject matter or the subject matter that you present to them difficult. So how do we deal with this? We must use varied methods of teaching to make difficult subject matters interesting, and if possible, we integrate technology into our teaching and learning of mathematics. And the last one is authoritative judgment. What do we mean by authoritative judgment? It occurs when a group of experts deliberate together and reach whatever compromise they can. So this also affects the selection of subject matter. So we can talk of groups like MAG, Mathematical Association of Ghana, committees on JHS and SHS, who may meet to deliberate on what to be included or excluded from the content for the JHS and SHS level. So all these things have influence on the selection of subject matter. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's session, and as usual, I will leave you with this question. Identify and explain 5 factors that affect the selection of school mathematics subject matter or content. Make sure you explain in your own words. If you have any problem, don't hesitate to contact me.